Okay, well, welcome, welcome, welcome. Today is February the 5th, and I'm wearing my red for Women's Heart Health Day. This is the month of February where we focus on women and their heart health. I think about 2013, maybe 2014, I spoke to a group of women, and at that time, as I was preparing and doing the information for the talk, one of the things that the statistic that I quoted was that heart disease was the number one killer for women. Now, this was 6, 7 years ago, and now today, 2021, we still see that this is a significant issue for women, not only women of color, but women of all ages and colors. And so today we're just going to talk a little bit about that. We're not going to deal so much with the nutritional aspect of it, but we are going to go into some other things. We're going to really talk about the heart and the emotions of the heart, and what do you do when you have a broken heart. Okay, so just stay with me for a few minutes. We won't be long with you. So, okay, so let's talk a little bit about this. So now we know that there are some things that can impact your heart that you don't really have any control over, right? I'm just going to go by my notes so that I can stay on task. Like your family history. You can't really do anything about that. You can't do anything about your age or your gender, right? So these are things that we can't change. We can't fix those. You may have been born with a birth defect that may be contributing to your heart disease. Now, there are surgeries and things that can, help support that in that area, but that's something that you could not really change, right? Without some intervention, surgical intervention. But women, especially women who kind of look like me, we are more prone to high blood pressure. Why is that? The research has shown that that women, Black women, women of color, we have a gene that makes us more sensitive to salt. So we're salt sensitive beings, and because of that, we have an increased risk for high blood pressure. Okay, so as I said, we're not focused on so much on the nutritional aspect today, but on those things that affect the soul. So what is the soul? The soul is the mind, the will, the emotion. So we're going to talk about women and heart disease and heart attacks. And over the last few years, one of the things that I did is I worked with women. One of the things that I saw over and over and over again, no matter who they were, what age range they were, what economic status they were, whether they were married, there was a lot of sadness, some unhappiness, some things that they were really dealing with because they had gotten stuck somewhere along the line, right? So, as I said, as I was working with these clients that had not only chronic conditions medically, but they also had some chronic emotional issues as well. But also what can happen though is that what kind of brought this home for me was yesterday, I was talking to a friend of mine and someone that, I really care about. And, recently she lost her son in a car accident. And so we were talking, and so she said someone had asked her, how was this different with the loss of her son in the car accident than when she lost her mother a few years ago? And so what she said was, she said, Shirley, she said, when I got the call, it was like I was expecting them to say like he's in the hospital, something like that. But she said, when they told me he died, she said, I felt my spirit begin to leave my body. That is a strong, severe emotion. And you can get stuck in that. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, okay? So it can be, it's called broken heart syndrome. There's a word for it. It's called Takotsubo. I can't pronounce it. It's Takotsubo, okay? So it can be brought on by extreme emotions like the death of a loved one, divorce, you got a diagnosis for a disease that, just really just knocked the wind out of you. And when this happened, this is mostly women. It's mostly been diagnosed and looked at in women, right? So this stress cripples the heart. This stress cripples the heart. And so because of that, we can have angina, sudden chest pain, shortness of breath, irregular heartbeat, and even fainting. So all of these things cripple the heart, right? So this is a psychological stress. So it's not a physical stress. It's not like you were hit by a car or something like that, but emotionally it can feel like you were hit by a car. So this psychological stress actually weakens the heart muscle, and it can lead to severe heart muscle failure. So you can go into heart failure from this. So what do you do with that? Because this severe emotional stress impacts the body, not just the mind. So we think it's just the emotions, but it's physically attacking the body as well, right? Because these hormones are released throughout the body when you're going through this emotional stress period that actually can impact your blood pressure and it can impact your heart rate. So what do you do? What do you do with all this pain? What do you do with all of this stress? What do you do with all of this emotions? So as I was talking to my friend, she did tell me, she said, it's day by day, nobody can tell me some days are better than others. And she said, I'm going through grief counseling. And at the same time, she's, processing a divorce too, on top of all of that. So that can really have a negative impact on you. So you want to support people like that. When you know somebody who has had a loss, you can't put a time limit on them of when they're going to come out of that loss, and how long it's going to take them, and why are they still acting this way. This was 5 years ago. You should pull yourself together, be supportive, and find things to help get them out of that place where they got stuck at, instead of being critical of where they are now. Okay, because we can all go through some things that can kind of hit us and knock us on our feet. And if we don't have somebody to help us up, or some spiritual strength or fortitude on the inside, we won't be able to make it. So what do you do with all of that pain? What do you do with all of that grief? What do you do with all that sadness and all of that depression? What do you do with it? The first thing is, don't hold it in. Don't hold it in. If you have to cry, scream, yell, get it out. Start to let that emotions out, don't hold it in. You want to avoid alcohol. I remember, so mostly if you don't know me, you see this video like, what is she talking? Who am I? I apologize. I am Shirley Banks, also known as Food Girl 29. So I'm a registered nurse for many years, and I was also a clinical nutritionist. And on top of that, I just have a heart for people. And I love to be able to help people move out of where they are to the next level, whether that's in their spirit, their soul, or their body. And I just like giving them tips and techniques and tools that they can use and incorporate. So don't get stuck where you are. There are people who you can support, that will support you and help you through this. Now, sometimes the people that you think are going to be there for you aren't necessarily the ones that will be there for you. And sometimes that can put people in a deeper state of depression, because you think, well, I thought my family would be there, or I thought my husband would be there, or I thought this person would be there for me. And you find that they can't support you in the way that you need to be supported. Now, they may be supporting you, but maybe the level that they're supporting you is not all you think it should be, or is not all you need. So find a support group that has similar situations, similar circumstances, and see if you can get in community there. Because sometimes we're expecting things from people that people can't give us. And then we're holding them accountable when they're not able to give us what we need, okay? So don't get stuck with that pain. Don't stay there in that place, but find support. You want to avoid alcohol. And the reason I say this, many years ago, I've worked in different venues of nursing. Cardiac has been one of my primary specialties where I worked in. But so I had a patient as an ICU nurse, and she went into liver failure. And why did she go into liver failure? Because she was drinking a bottle of wine every night. Initially, it started off, I'm just unwinding, but she had a stress of a really messy life situation, circumstances going on. So instead of her looking outside of herself to try to find support and get help, she decided, I'm going to drink. And the drinking kind of nulls my pain. But then the drinking began to take over and create another problem for her. And now she ends up in the hospital, in the ICU, needing a liver transplant because she's in liver failure. So that's not what you want to do. You don't want to try to get substances, whether it's the wine or the alcohol or drugs, to try to numb the pain. Because the pain is real, and the pain is there to let you know, I'm here, I need to be fixed. And if you add something just to numb that pain, it's going to create another situation, right? So don't hold that pain in. Don't reach for alcohol or drugs or something like that to try to numb the pain down, okay? You want to let this pain out. You want to talk to people about how you're feeling, right? So she's doing grief counseling, which is good. And sometimes you can get stuck. There's different stages of grief. And we're not going to go through all of that right now, but there's different stages. And so sometimes you can get stuck in one of those phases of grief. And people may not always understand why you are where you are. It's because you got stuck, whether that was in the denial phase, whether, whatever phase you got stuck in. And so you need to be around people that support you. If you need to get a counselor, most insurances will cover it. They would rather see you doing that than as opposed to, suffering and going to an alternative route. So most insurances will cover a mental health counselor if you need that, okay? But talk to your doctor about what you're feeling, how your day is, whether you process it. Are you able to get up out of bed? Are you able to get up and do your dailies and showers? Or are you a functional depressed person? I get up, I get dressed, I go to work, I do my 8 hours, I come home, and then I'm shut in the house. I don't talk to anybody. I don't go anywhere. The next day I do it all over again. So where are you stuck at? Where are you stuck at in this broken heart, depression, sadness cascade? What is going on with you, right? So we talked about that, the grief counseling, support groups, just a friend. I'm glad my friend reached out to me, before, she would just text me, I would text her because she didn't feel like talking. And so I honored that space. Like she didn't feel like talking. So I would just text her, like, I'm thinking of you, love you. And then if she responded back, I didn't put pressure on her. So when she called me yesterday, I felt good because like, wow, I was just letting them know I'm here if you need me. I'm here if you want to talk. I'm here, whatever. And so when she reached out to me, we actually had a good conversation and even a little bit of laughter. So that was a good thing, right? So the other thing you want to try to do is if you're that person, you want to make sure you're sleeping well, because actually sleep can help you recover in so many ways, not just physically, but emotionally too. It can help your hormones be a little bit more balanced. So if you're having issues with sleeping, there are some things, and we'll go into that in another talk, that kind of help you. You don't want to just kind of veg out on sleeping pills, but talk to your doctor and try to do things a little bit more naturally, to kind of help you sleep and rest and relax, okay? So sleep. Sometimes you don't feel like eating, you don't have an appetite, but you can try and get in things like soups, okay? Something that's easy, So if you've got a friend that's stuck somewhere in one of these phases and like, well, wow, this happened to them, they're not eating, I see that they're losing weight, they're just, avoiding people, take them a nice bowl of healing, nurturing soups, and they can get soups in, and that will give them some vitamins and minerals in there until they get back to that place where they want to eat. This is a real thing, women. And I don't know how many women, and I tell you, clients that I've worked with, they've been, as I said, Black, white, Hispanic, all age range, all economic range, and they have all suffered from severe emotional stress, and they got stuck there. Now, not to the point where it ended up in heart failure, but because I'm a holistic person and I believe that, how we think in our mind affects how we feel in our body. So these are the things that can happen. So, okay, let's do that. So the last thing I want to drop in and leave with you is, okay, what is your, how do you manage stress? How do you handle things like that when things come and just knock the wind out you, that I don't know what I'm going to do with this? Like you just stop. Like, is this real? What do you do? What support do you have? As I said, sometimes family can't be there to support you. Sometimes friends can't be there. And even if they're there, you don't feel like it's the support you need, because sometimes the only thing you can get, and because I'm a believer in Christ, that only peace and support you can get is going to come from the Father. He's the only one that's going to be able to support you and begin to bring that healing process to you. They can be there to help. But what do you have? Do you do meditation on the scriptures? What's your favorite scripture you stand on? Do you reach out to somebody for prayer? What do you do to manage that peace when the wind is knocked out from under you? I hope you have some place to go. And even if you're not a believer, there are many people that have prayer lines. There's suicide lines. There's all kind of lines that you can call to get support. So I don't want you to get stuck. So don't stay stuck. Don't stay in that place where you are. Why? Because there's healing on the other side. Okay. Now I know this was kind of different. I'm not talking to you about, eating right and stop smoking and all of those things. All of those things will help with your body and making sure you're well. But sometimes things happen that we don't expect. And it causes a lot of pain, a lot of stress, and we don't know what to do with it. The wind is knocked out from under us. So in that time when these things do happen, I want you to know that there is help, there is solutions for you. And if you find that you've already been through this and you're stuck in some phase that I don't know where to go from here, think about some of the things that we've talked about. Seek counseling out. Seek out, if you belong to a church, definitely talk to. A lot of churches have grief counseling. They have support ministers that you can go to and get support from there. And even if you don't go to church, you can actually go to a church and say, well, I'm not a member. I know right now we're kind of online and stuff like that, but you can find somebody that can support you, and that's kind of all I want to say. Okay. You can heal from that broken heart. You can heal. Don't stay stuck.